What's up YouTube, Tactical Swede here once again with another edition of Swede's Peeves. On today's episode, accidental versus negligent discharge. There is a difference, folks. Let's get in it. Alright, recently I've been involved in some discussions where the terms accidental discharge and negligent discharge have been kind of used interchangeably. I don't like that because they're not the same thing. I think a lot of times people will use the term accidental discharge in place of negligent discharge because negligent discharge has a negative connotation to it. You were negligent, you did something wrong. Versus accidental discharge, oh, it was an accident. It wasn't my fault, it was just an accident. But in reality, most cases where a gun goes off when it wasn't intended to is due to negligence. In accidental discharge, what that means is there's a malfunction in that weapon that caused it to go off when it shouldn't have. For an example, a firing pin gets stuck forward and you chamber around and boom, it goes off. You never pulled the trigger, all you did was rack around in there and boom, it went off. That's an accidental discharge. Anything else that involves manipulation of the trigger in some way, shape, or form, being you pulled the trigger, you were holstering your weapon and your clothes got caught in the trigger guard and caused it to go off, or you put it inside of a bag and something got in the trigger guard and pulled the trigger. Anytime that trigger gets pulled and the gun goes off, that is a negligent discharge. Regardless of whether it was an accident or not. I mean, I'm sure most people when this happens, they didn't intend to shoot that gun. It was an accident, but that doesn't make it an accidental discharge. It's a negligent discharge. Now, most times a negligent discharge happens, they're usually accompanied by a phrase or an excuse that should really raise red flags to people. Negligent. My favorite being, I didn't know it was loaded. Negligent. You are 100% negligent in that case because you disregarded the #1 rule of firearm safety, and that is to always treat a gun as if it's loaded. If you pick up a weapon and you don't verify that it is clear and safe before you pull that trigger, you are negligent. There's no arguing that fact. Another one that I hear a lot is, I don't know what happened, it just went off. No, it didn't just go off. Guns sitting by themselves without being touched do not just go off. You acted on that weapon and it went off. It did what it was supposed to do. The trigger was pulled, it fired. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. There was no malfunction in the weapon. You, through your negligence, caused it to fire. Being, again, pulling the trigger or not verifying that that trigger was covered by a quality holster or whatever the case was, you're reholstering and you get clothing wrapped in there. Again, you didn't make sure that the trigger guard was clear before you holstered it. Whatever the case is, you were negligent. And that's not to say, again, that's not to say that these things weren't an accident. You didn't intend for it to happen, but being an accident doesn't make it an accidental discharge. It's still negligence on your part. So stop using these terms interchangeably because they're not. A lot of people will argue like, terminology, accidental, negligent, magazine, clip, doesn't matter, stop being so anal about stuff. But I think it's an important thing to know the terminology and the proper definitions of things. If you don't respect your craft enough to know the proper terms and definitions of things, what else might you be slacking on? I think it's a respect thing, and if you don't respect the craft or the weapon enough to learn the definitions of what things are and what they do, I think that you're possibly going to be lacking in some other areas. Again, that's just one man's opinion, but that's the way I feel about it. I'm not one of these people that'll say, it doesn't matter what you call it. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. It's not the same thing. All right, guys, that's it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think it's the same thing? Do you think it's not the same thing? Hit me up. Let me know. Please, if you like what I'm doing, give me that thumbs up. By all means, hit that subscribe button up there. Stay up to date with any new videos. Always got more rolling out. We'll catch you next time. Till then, live life and have fun out there.